At 11:47 p.m., a single phone call changed everything. On that call, a Utah mother of 3, someone her community trusted as a nurse, a neighbor, and a friend, allegedly confessed to a crime so cold, it left even investigators shaken. In this video, you're going to hear the chilling details of that late-night conversation. The disturbing words Jennifer Gledhill used to describe her husband, the shocking comparisons she made, and the confession that prosecutors say sealed her fate. But that's only the beginning, because as we pull back the curtain, you'll learn about the hidden cracks in her marriage, the alleged betrayal that fueled this tragedy, and the devastating aftermath that left 3 young children without either parent. This is not just another crime story. It's a story of trust shattered, a family destroyed, and a community forced to ask, how well do we really know the people we love? Stay with us until the end, because the final words from Jennifer's own mouth will haunt you long after this video ends. It was 11:47 p.m. when the phone rang. On the other end was a voice the world thought they knew, soft, caring, the voice of a nurse, a mother. But what Jennifer Gledhill said next would rip apart every illusion of normalcy and seal her fate forever. In that single phone call, a carefully guarded secret began to unravel. A wife was accused of betraying her husband. A mother was accused of betraying her children. And a community would soon discover that the woman they trusted could have been capable of unthinkable darkness. Her husband, Matthew Johnson, wasn't just a family man. He was a decorated Green Beret, a soldier who had stared down death on battlefields far from home. Yet the betrayal that brought him down didn't come from a foreign enemy. It came from within his own home, behind the locked doors of a $1 million house in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. The perfect picture of suburban bliss shattered into a nightmare. To the world, Jennifer and Matthew had it all. 3 beautiful children, a dream home, steady careers, respect. But the truth is never found in family portraits. It's found in the cracks behind the smiles. Matthew was 51, a disciplined Green Beret in the Utah National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group. He had been forged in fire, combat zones, harsh training, years of sacrifice. Fellow soldiers called him brilliant, calm under pressure, the kind of man you could trust with your life. At home, he was still the protector, a father who never missed a chance to be with his children, aged 11, 7, and 5. To them, he was a superhero. To his community, he was the very definition of honor. Jennifer, the mother, the nurse, the caregiver. People described her as warm, approachable, even gentle. She was the kind of neighbor you waved to while dropping kids off at school, the kind of woman who smiled in grocery store aisles. But those smiles masked something deeper. Behind closed doors, Matthew and Jennifer's marriage wasn't built on trust. It was cracking under the weight of resentment and unmet expectations. Matthew's military life left him stretched thin. Training, deployments, nights when duty called louder than family. Jennifer felt alone, overlooked. The resentment grew in silence, feeding something darker. And while Matthew remained devoted, Jennifer became restless. Friends whispered about her coldness, subtle changes, a smile that no longer reached her eyes. The facade of a perfect life was collapsing, and no one on the outside saw it coming. When investigators began unraveling the truth, they realized they weren't dealing with a simple case of domestic unhappiness. They were staring into a carefully woven web of deceit. The phone call, the recording at 11:47 p.m., wasn't just late-night chatter. It was evidence. Jennifer's words didn't sound like a worried wife. They sounded like intent, cold, calculated. Phone records, dozens of late-night calls and texts that raised questions Jennifer couldn't answer. Financial secrets, hidden debt, unexplained withdrawals. Transactions that didn't match the story of a struggling but faithful wife. Digital footprints. Internet searches that prosecutors would later argue painted a chilling picture of preparation. Remember, this entire case turns on a single late-night phone call. The words Jennifer spoke at 11:47 p.m. would seal her fate forever. Stay with us, because the most shocking part of that, the $1 million family home became a crime scene. Investigators tore through it, bedrooms, computers, paperwork, children's toys scattered on the floor. A house once filled with warmth now buzzed with the cold presence of forensic teams. Detectives described the scene as unsettling. It looked like any other family home, one recalled, but every corner hid a secret. Piece by piece, they built a case. And with each discovery, Jennifer's carefully maintained mask slipped further away. But why? That was the question everyone asked. What could drive a woman, a mother, a nurse, a wife, to betray her family in the most devastating way? Prosecutors argued Jennifer's motive was resentment. Years of frustration at being overshadowed by Matthew. Tired of the decorated soldier, the respected Green Beret, the man who commanded attention everywhere he went. Financial strain, personal dissatisfaction, and a hunger for independence all collided into one chilling conclusion. Jennifer saw her husband not as a partner, but as an obstacle. The 11:47 p.m. phone call became their weapon. Played again and again, it was, in their words, the confession without the word confession. The defense painted Jennifer differently, not as a monster, but as a misunderstood woman. They described her as emotionally frayed, overwhelmed by motherhood, and crushed under the weight of a troubled marriage. Her words on the phone, taken out of context, they said, misinterpreted. They argued she was desperate, not dangerous. The trial became a spectacle. Journalists filled the gallery. Neighbors whispered. Matthew's fellow soldiers sat in uniform, silent pillars of loyalty. On one side, prosecutors calling Jennifer a cold manipulator. On the other, a defense team begging the jury to see a flawed but human woman. But the truth was in the details, the texts, the calls, the finances, the phone recording. Each piece chipped away at Jennifer's innocence. The aftermath of the Jennifer Gledhill case is measured not just in court transcripts or verdicts, but in shattered lives. 3 children, just 11, 7, and 5, were left adrift. Their father gone. Their mother accused of betraying him. Overnight, their family disintegrated. Instead of bedtime stories and family dinners, they were thrown into a storm of headlines, whispers, and painful questions no child should ever have to ask. Neighbors could barely believe it. The nurse who smiled in the carpool line. The mother who volunteered at school. The woman they thought they knew. To them, it was a betrayal of trust. Not just against her husband, but against everyone who welcomed her into their lives. For Matthew's brothers in arms, it was devastating. They had fought beside him, trusted him with their lives. To lose him like this, not in combat but at home, was unthinkable. They remembered him as the man who always had the answers. The soldier who never let his guard down. The father who put his children above everything. His betrayal wasn't just Jennifer's crime. It was a wound that would never fully heal for those who loved him. The story of Jennifer Gledhill is more than a crime. It's a warning. It shows us how betrayal can grow in silence, hidden behind smiles and family photos. How resentment, unchecked, can turn deadly. Jennifer wasn't a stranger. She was a wife, a mother, a nurse. She was trusted, loved, admired. And yet, according to investigators, she became the architect of destruction inside her own home. And it all unraveled with one phone call at 11:47 p.m. A call that shattered illusions. A call that left children without parents. A call that will forever echo as one of Utah's darkest betrayals. If even the people closest to us can hide such darkness, do we ever truly know the ones we love? But here's the thing. What happened inside that home is only half the story. Because hours later, Jennifer would pick up the phone and make a call. One that prosecutors say revealed everything. This call isn't just background noise. It's the moment her carefully hidden world began to collapse. The words she spoke on that line are unlike anything investigators had ever heard. Before we get to that shocking call, let's step back and uncover the events that led to it. Because once you understand the tension building in Jennifer's marriage, her choices that night, and the lies she tried to maintain, the meaning of her words becomes far more disturbing. And trust me, when you hear what Jennifer actually said, you'll understand why this phone call has become the most controversial piece of evidence in the entire case. Sometimes it only takes a few words to expose everything. In the case of Jennifer Gledhill, those words came at 11:47 p.m., a late-night phone call that prosecutors say was no ordinary conversation. This call, secretly recorded, turned a family tragedy into one of Utah's most chilling true crime cases. A wife, a mother of 3, and a nurse, accused of not only killing her husband but confessing it in a moment of terrifying candor. The call was placed just hours after Matthew Johnson, Jennifer's husband and a decorated Green Beret, vanished without explanation. On the other end of the line was Jennifer's alleged lover. He listened in disbelief as Jennifer's calm voice delivered shocking revelations. She reportedly confessed to shooting Matthew in the head as he slept. Not in an argument, not in a struggle, but while he was vulnerable at rest, in the sanctuary of his own bed. She went on to describe how she had placed his body in a storage container, maneuvered it down from the attic, loaded it into her van, and buried it in a shallow grave. But what shocked investigators most wasn't just the confession. It was how Jennifer spoke about Matthew. On the recording, Jennifer pleaded with her lover, "Don't think of me as a monster. Remember me for who I was before I opened my mouth." But as her voice cracked, she added something darker, words that prosecutors would use to define her state of mind. "He's not a person anymore. He wasn't Matt." That dehumanizing phrase became one of the most disturbing parts of the evidence. In that moment, Jennifer spoke of her husband not as the father of her children, not as the man she married, but as if he had already ceased to exist. And then there was the chilling metaphor. "I always said I was like the Queen of Hearts in my past lives. Off with their heads." To the jury of public opinion, this was no slip of the tongue. It was an admission that she saw herself as capable of cutting people down when they stood in her way. The man on the other end of the call later told investigators that he felt trapped, fearful, conflicted, and horrified. When he admitted he was scared of Jennifer after hearing her confession, she responded with words that only deepened the psychological horror. "That broke my heart." Instead of concern for Matthew or even for her children, her emotional focus remained on how she was being perceived. She wanted to control the narrative, to shape how her lover remembered her, even as she described the most violent betrayal imaginable. The recording was turned over to police, and it became the centerpiece of the state's case against Jennifer. Detectives pieced together corroborating evidence. Traces of blood inside a rooftop storage container. GPS data showing suspicious movements on the night Matthew disappeared. A freshly purchased mattress to replace the one prosecutors say she stained with blood. Financial withdrawals and odd purchases that suggested planning. But it was the phone call, raw, unfiltered, that prosecutors argued exposed Jennifer's state of mind more than any forensic test ever could. The phone call sparked fierce debate both inside and outside the courtroom. Prosecution's view: the call was a confession, proof that Jennifer had not only killed her husband but rationalized it. Her words, especially "he wasn't Matt," demonstrated detachment and intent. Defense's view: Jennifer's lawyers argued that the call was misunderstood. They claimed it reflected desperation, guilt, and mental instability, not a cold, calculated murderer. They suggested she was venting emotionally, not giving a factual account of events. Public reaction. For the community, the words, "Don't think of me as a monster," became unforgettable. To some, it sounded like the plea of a guilty conscience. To others, it sounded like the unraveling of a woman pushed beyond her limits. What remains undeniable is the devastation left in the wake of that call. 3 children, ages 11, 7, and 5, were left without both parents. Their father gone forever, their mother behind bars, her reputation destroyed. The community of Cottonwood Heights, once trusting, was left shaken, unable to reconcile the smiling nurse they knew with the chilling voice on the tape. The military brotherhood mourned Matthew not as a casualty of war, but as a victim of betrayal at home. The Jennifer Gledhill case reminds us of one chilling truth. Sometimes the most dangerous words aren't shouted in anger, but whispered in confession. At 11:47 p.m., Jennifer's phone call didn't just expose a crime. It shattered illusions, redefined trust, and etched her voice into history as one of the most disturbing confessions ever recorded. And the question that lingers is this: was Jennifer Gledhill desperately crying out in guilt, or coldly revealing her true self? After hearing Jennifer's chilling phone call and the story behind it, what do you think? Was this the voice of a desperate woman breaking under pressure, or a cold confession from someone who had already crossed the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this story powerful and want to see more real-life true crime documentaries just like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. On this channel, we cover some of the most shocking and unforgettable true crime stories from around the world, and there's plenty more coming your way. So, if you love deep dives into real events, subscribe now and join our growing community.